Today we're at Hupp's Hill outside of Strasburg, Virginia. After the burning, General Sheridan's Army of the Shenandoah fell back to their camps along Cedar Creek, which is just behind us, just off in the distance about 1.5 miles away. On October 13th, Confederates occupied Hupp's Hill, which is directly in front of us. You can see the portion of it there. You can really see the elevation there up on Route 11. A division deployed in battle line in a stand of trees atop the hill, while the remaining infantry divisions formed a line under the brow of the hill and out of sight of the Union position. Confederate artillery also went into battery on Hupp's Hill and opened fire on the Federal camps. Shells screamed into the camps of General Crook's Army of West Virginia. Captain John Sutter recalled, "The enemy appeared in full force on Fisher's Hill and unlimbered a battery on this side of the town and amused himself by shelling our camps, the most of which fell in the 54ths, slightly wounding a few men and several bursting rather unpleasantly nearby headquarters. But as these things are common occurrences, no person minds them much. General Crook ordered Colonel Toburn to send some men and drive the artillery off of Hupp's Hill. Colonel Toburn dispatched Colonel Wells and Colonel Harris's brigades with orders to ascertain the strength of the Confederates and end the shelling if possible. At the sound of assembly, both brigades formed into battle lines and cautiously moved forward into a stretch of open ground 200 yards long between their entrenchments and Cedar Creek. The Confederate artillery opened a heavy fire on the two brigades as they marched across the exposed field. The battle-hardened veterans moved forward with barely a flinch, convinced they only faced a couple of batteries of artillery supported by a small force of infantry. Captain Sutter wrote, "Our division moved in line over a mile of ground under a terrific fire of shells, some of which burst in the line of our brigade, tearing the men to pieces, but mostly passing over our heads. Once in the shelter of some woods at the base of the hill around Cedar Creek, Wells's brigade formed in battle line on the left of the Valley Pike." So that is the Valley Pike. So Colonel Wells's brigade would have been across the Valley Pike in those trees, and Colonel Harris's brigade, which the 54th was part of, formed in the fields directly in front of us here. Now in a battlefront, the Federal line moved forward, but the topography affected their alignment. A ridge line running along the Valley Pike and thus between the two brigades caused them to lose contact with each other. In addition, the ridge line, thick underbrush around the stream broke up the formations, but the men crossed Cedar Creek and were formed here on the other side. A low stone wall ran in front of Colonel Wells's brigade a few hundred yards from the Confederate position. The men rushed forward up the hill and took cover behind the wall and opened fire on the Confederates atop Hupp's Hill. As soon as Colonel Harris's brigade approached the top of the hill, it was seriously assailed by the enemy's shells. So that would be the hill directly to our front. The shells aimed at such accuracy to do us considerable damage at every discharge. Captain Sutter added, "We advanced until close on to the battery when it moved back, and we engaged their infantry for a short time. Colonel Harris immediately ordered his men to move by the right flank and at the double quick, made it to the shelter of some woods. Once in the patch of woods, the brigade formed back into a battle line and opened fire on the Confederates. Colonel Harris planned to move forward again to link up and support Colonel Wells's brigade. His men advanced into the withering fire and once more formed one continuous line. That would be more up towards the top of the hill, that far tree line that you can see up by that tower. As the two Federal brigades moved up the hill, two Confederate divisions moved from behind the crest of the hill and formed into a line to meet the sudden Union advance. For an hour, both sides engaged in a vicious stand-up firefight. Private George Pyle called it a pretty hot fight with pretty heavy losses. The men fell in rapid succession on both sides until a Confederate brigade from General Kershaw's infantry division moved onto the right flank of Colonel Harris's brigade. That would be to the right of where we're currently looking. Fearing they might be cut off, the Federals fought with tenacity and poured volley after volley into the Confederates. But it soon became apparent that he was there in such forces as to enable him to turn our right. Colonel Harris ordered his brigade to fall back here down towards Cedar Creek and sent a messenger to Colonel Wells with similar orders. Before he could deliver the message, a bullet felled the courier's horse. Colonel Wells's brigade continued to stand their ground across the Valley Pike as Confederates closed in on their right flank, before falling back with the Confederates in hot pursuit. During the battle, Colonel Wells fell with a mortal chest wound. Advancing Confederates took Colonel Wells prisoner, and he died later that night. After the skirmish, General Early pulled the majority of his men back to Fisher's Hill, though a few remained here to keep up a heavy skirmish with the Federal pickets until midnight. The brief skirmish at Hupp's Hill proved indecisive and costly for the Federals. Colonel Toburn lost 22 killed and 110 wounded. In addition, the Confederates captured 77 men. In the 54th Pennsylvania, Captain Sutter reported about 12 killed and wounded. While neither side accomplished much in the fighting on October 13th, it did impact General Sheridan. The brief fight proved most of General Early's army still posed a threat, and he decided to keep the 6th and 19th Corps here in the Shenandoah Valley. Thank you for watching this episode of In the Footsteps of the 54th.